Okay, Mono showed me this. Why young men are falling even further behind. They're not falling behind. They're being held back. It's by cold fusion. And one guy says, uh, thank you for focusing on solutions of the video. Well, we'll see what those solutions are because I haven't watched this yet. Let's get into the gaslighting, guys.
A young adult man, out of shape, living in his mother's basement, eating junk food, playing video games, and has a bottom-of-the-barrel job. For a long time, this has been comic relief in popular culture. What self-respecting...
Yeah, guys who are at bottom of the hierarchy get beaten down on. It's a bullying, right?
30-year-old would have such a life is obviously a loser who doesn't try in life. So
Now, they're showing Wayne's World. These guys are pretending to be teenagers. So what's the point of showing them?
we can laugh at this character to make ourselves feel better. 25 years ago, this situation was seen as comic relief. And I'm not just saying that. This clip from the year 2000 is from...
I'm not going to show that. Just get by that. Just a woman bashing on a guy for no reason. Well, because she hates him, right? Let's get on.
It's fairly common today to have men in their late 20s and early 30s living at home. In fact, in the US, 55%...
Good for them. Good for them for finding someone to look after them. It's either that or be homeless, right? They're no worse than housewife leech. Actually, they're better than housewife leech because they actually appreciate being taken care of.
percent of 18 to 30-year-old men still live at home. In Australia, that number's around 54%. Something that people joked...
By the way, in the past, when the extended family existed, everyone lived at home, right? Your home was your home. It wasn't this big expectation to get out and live somewhere else.
about in movie.
Everyone lived on the farm, worked on the farm. So when the parents got old, the younger generation would look after them, right?
On TV 25 years ago is basically the norm today for men. Women are doing better in this department, with less of them living at home, but also the...
Of course, genius. They're giving first dibs and encouragement to the education system and employment system. People prefer to hire women, and women are giving freebies. They're giving actual like grants, bursaries to get into university. See, there's much more encouragement there.
doing better in education. In recent years, this issue has taken the limelight, and it's got a lot of people asking, why are young men falling behind?
It was gaslighting. They're not falling behind, they're being kept behind.
It wasn't so long ago that men enjoyed a clear advantage in American society.
No, they didn't, you lying sack. It's not an advantage. Men got where they did because they worked for it. That's not an advantage.
But these days, a different story is emerging. Men and boys falling behind.
Boys are not simply falling behind relative to girls, but they're falling behind.
They're not falling behind at all, dude. Female teachers downgrade them. They downmark them. They're being kept behind.
In absolute terms from prior generations of boys.
If a group is falling behind in society, we don't tell them to pick themselves up by their bootstraps.
Yes, they do. You do too, dude. I've seen this loser. That's exactly what he says.
We spend billions of money in taxpayer-funded charities and think tanks to try and work out what's going on and to try and bring them along for the ride.
No, they don't. No, they don't. The first part is right. But then they deny what's going on. They don't bring men along for the ride. Men are being kept back. They're being kept down.
It's not happening with men.
They don't have a stable job, a wife, a white picket fence, or little rugrats running around the house. They often try to follow their parents' way of life, but...
Well, notice one follows the other. For example, they can't have a wife and kids unless they have a stable job, unlike the housewife leech. Right. So it's all they can't get a job.
But it just doesn't work. It seems somewhere along the way they messed up. They think to themselves, I choked, I got lazy. But is it really their fault? Or is it a failing system?
No, this is not a failing system. This fish system is geared up for this cold fusion. Its goal is to keep men down, to oppress men, and it works very well. Cold fusion, you are gaslighting.
You are watching Cold Fusion TV.
But it's now clear that there are many boys and men who've fallen behind.
Oh, here's another jack off. Here's another guy making status off of men and boys. So he's going to pretend he's going to discuss it, right?
And that we have to be able to think about gender inequality in both directions.
So in both directions, oh, see that? See? No, dude. Women have always had more advantages than men. You're a lying sack.
One thing that makes that hard is that the changes have been so quick, so rapid, that it's hard to update our beliefs to match the new facts. It's a bit like the needles
Well, for one thing, you're not even given the facts. You're lying.
on a compass swinging round. Suddenly north is south and south is north. It's really
Bullshit. North has always been north. Men have always had to work to get where they are. People have always been hostile to men. And it's only the fact that society needed men so desperately in the past that they didn't outright destroy them. While the machines are taking over, men are finding unemployment and they're becoming homeless. Well, because they're hated, right?
quite disorienting. But it's clear that on some measures at least now men are lagging quite a way behind, not least on college campuses. That reflects the fact that boys are trailing girls throughout the education system.
Right, exactly. So they didn't in the last generations. Did the boys become stupider just this generation? No. Any guy who gets an audience like this will be anti-male. He'll be a misandrist. So he's only going to bring up this problem to gaslight guys, pretend he's got a solution, and make money himself. This lazy bum isn't working for a living. See, his job is standing up and shooting the breeze.
2/3 of the top academic performers in high school, measured by GPA, are girls. And 2/3 of those at the bottom are boys.
Well, there you go. But that wasn't always so. So again, you've got to ask yourself, or be honest, and say, how come it only happened this generation? How come boys were out competing girls in the past? Now they can't. Right?
It's not just in the US. We look at the 20 most economically advanced countries in the world.
That's right, economically advanced. All the countries that have become prosperous can now show their misandry openly and start attacking the men at birth.
On average, a 13 percentage point gap in the share of young men and young women with a college degree, with young women.
Wow, Norway's the worst. Canada's way up there too, right? Right. The more progressive they are, the more misandrist they are. They're actually not progressive. These countries that call themselves progressives, they aren't.
Much more likely to have a college degree. And in some nations, the gap is much bigger.
Also, he's leaving out the fact that college degrees have to get you an employment. And we all know that women who get college degrees often get married when their college degree doesn't get them employment. Or maybe they never intended to be employed. They always intended to leech off a man one way or the other. And the The education was just a LARP for them.
Just last year, in a Wall Street Journal article titled, "America's Young Men Are Falling Even Further Behind," journalist Rachel Wolf decided to follow a family of 6, the Morenos, all in all a normal family. The thing was, while their only daughter recently graduated from business school and got engaged, her 3 brothers were...
There you go. She educated and then she got engaged. Right. So she's got a man to leech off of. Right. You know, when women get educated, it's to up their status to gain a higher status man, right?
well into adulthood are still living with their parents in their childhood bedrooms. When the father was asked about the situation, he stated, quote, "Something is amiss here. We love them. We love having them around. But that's not how you build your life."
And then you don't lie. No, this is bullshit. He doesn't want these guys around. They're surplus males to that man. The vast majority of fathers look at their sons and say, yeah, I got some fondness for you, but I want you gone now. Not cute little boys. You're just guys leeching off me. And I already got a housewife leech. Only I actually like her, so I want her around.
Unquote. When they asked one of the sons, Daniel, if he shared this concern, he said, quote, "I just felt so lost. Nothing is really stopping me. It's just myself standing in my own way." End quote.
Yeah, these guys blame themselves. If he was, he'd just get up and do what he needs to do. Notice the way they talk. There's nothing concrete about it, is there? Right? So this young lady went to school, right? These guys, did they get the same financial bonuses to go to university? I bet they didn't.
For Daniel, a lot of this had to do with COVID. A loss of connection with his friends led him to drop out of school and become aimless. A study in 2021 by the Survey Center on American Life found that only 26% of men reported having 6 or more close friends.
Yeah, well, men don't like each other, dude. Men of the past, when they had friendships, I mean, I won't exaggerate. There's guys still have friendships, but a lot of it is their friendship is tied in their adulthood from having something in common. That is, like, they all work at the same place, or their wives know each other, and that's how they're friends, right? The gatekeepers of the social circle, right? They don't exist for them, right? Men could have friends if they wanted to. They simply don't want to.
In 1990, it was 55%. And in 2021, those who had 0 friends were 17%. In 1990, it was 3.4%. That's a 500% increase in men with 0 friends since 1990.
Now again, you're bringing something up, but you're not saying what the cause is. Notice they never say what the cause is. Well, I shouldn't say they never do it, but when they bring it up, it's gaslighting, right?
Research also shows that women tend to invest more in maintaining their friendships than men do.
Yeah, because women like women. They like other women. That's why they still have girlfriends.
So female friendship rates tend to be higher. But while COVID may have made many men drift apart, including Daniel, something else is going on here. COVID didn't cause every man to start falling behind, and also not in the same way. In the US, the percentage of men living at home between the ages of 25 and 34 has virtually doubled since the 1980s. So what?
Well, isn't this also due to capitalism, right? The free markets? That is to say that unions get busted, corporations ship to countries that are impoverished and desperate and hire the men there for pennies, and they stop hiring guys here for a decent wage. You're leaving that out, aren't you? You're not mentioning that obvious cause.
Gives? Well, rising house prices are an obvious factor in the West, so there's less shame in living in a generational household, but it goes deeper. Regardless of affiliation, the broader consensus over the last 3 to 5 years appears to be that traditionally male-dominated industries like manufacturing are shrinking, while service industries are reaching all-time highs around the world.
There you go. Actually, I was wrong. He did bring it up. Women don't want to do the manufacturing jobs. That's for little low-life men. Those jobs are disappearing. That's right. And these nice, safe jobs that are clean, in which you simply shoot off with your mouth, women love those jobs. So they boot the men out and say, we want these.
And those sectors are the ones that men aren't conventionally trained to excel in.
Well, not trained to excel in. Listen to this. No, men aren't trained because no one wants them there. These women want these jobs. See this job? This is a nice, easy job. Women want that.
The statistical reality puts young men at a disadvantage, and that's not all. Traditionally male-dominated fields are more commonly accepting of women. Ultimately, that's a good thing, but it does provide extra...
No, it isn't. So why is it a good thing that men want women around, but women gatekeep these jobs, these easy jobs, to keep men out? How's that good?
Competition for men.
And women looking for a job or even a career are discovering there is a whole new world out there.
As it turns out, roles traditionally filled by men now being offered to women. Here's 3 on Your Side's Gary.
There you go. You see, like, they're just rolling out the carpet for women while men are being stigmatized. You want an answer? You've got to change society, dude.
Harper.
This iron worker has made a successful career for herself.
I love that. This is puke-inducing, right? These women could have always had these jobs. Right. They just didn't want them. Guys, there were, what do you call those? Blacksmiths. There was the odd female blacksmith in the past, in the Middle Ages. So nothing has changed. You get the odd woman who finds a little interest in this typically male role, and she goes for it.
Physical work.
You may find Adrienne Donato 30 feet above the ground, welding and using a handheld jackhammer. She even worked...
Yes, so what? So guys are in trouble. Let's brag up women who like the odd gal who might take up the job. Okay, I'm getting past that.
They can practically kiss that goodbye. Let's
back that up. It's a woman's world. Yeah, I better back that up.
A handheld jackhammer. She even worked for the same company through 2 pregnancies.
They were very supportive.
Iron workers are just one of many fields now trying to...
Shows you that pregnancy isn't the big thing women make it out to be. Is it? If they can work a hard labor job while pregnant.
Recruit women. The industry just announced the new paid maternity benefits.
They're gonna make...
Well, there you go. And men don't get that. So again, women are encouraged to take up men's jobs. And when they do, they get freebies.
good money, but they're going to have great benefits to go along with it. So they'll have that health insurance and a pension plan.
In the world of dating, things are changing for young men too.
No, they aren't. No, they aren't, dude. Men have always had to jump through endless hoops to get intimacy with a woman. Women don't like men. That's why relationships between men and women are prostitution. Nothing has changed here.
When it comes to dating, for many Gen Z men, they can practically kiss that goodbye. In the US, for example, during the 1970s and 80s, the percentage of men who weren't married by age 40 were in the single digits.
Yeah, see, all these women are looking at guys that look like they're high status, a football player, a guy in a suit, right?
But by 2021, that had ballooned to 28%. As young men struggle to excel in life, they tend to appear less attractive to a lot of women.
Wow. No, they don't appear to be less attractive. They are less attractive. Bug off with these weasel words. And it just shows you that female mate selection is garbage. Women should be ashamed of themselves.
Word on the street is that young women just can't find a good man anymore, so many quit dating altogether. But the culture has also shifted. According to the...
Well, it shows that good man just means good servant. Men no longer have the status to bribe them with. So notice in all these talks, this is never shown in a bad light, is it? Ever.
The Washington Post, the Me Too movement of the mid-2010s caused men to be reluctant to approach women in real life for fear of being perceived as a threat.
We're going to talk about...
It's not perceived as a threat, it is a threat. Matter of fact, it's not just a threat, it's something that's happened to men. So it's damage, not a threat, it's actual damage. No, again, something terrible that women are doing, slandering men, falsely accusing them, is not being shown in a bad light by this channel. By this channel, Cold Fusion. That's why Cold Fusion, you have 5 million subscribers. You wouldn't if you actually said something that was honest about the situation. To be honest about women's behavior is to be negative towards them. And you're not allowed to be negative. That's why you have 5 million subscribers.
The consistent phenomenon of men not approaching women when they're out, when they're at the coffee place, when they're at...
But it's not just Me Too, though. It's not just that. Women love rejecting men. And guys get tired of it.
At the workplace, it's, I guess, just a plague upon society that is impacting young women right now who want to be approached and who want...
Holy snap. See, this is how disgusting human beings are. So women deselect men, and now they claim to be the victims of it.
A little bit of attention to be paid to them in the age group of 18 to 20.
They want men's attention, but they don't like men. They don't respect us. They're definitely not there. Like they're happy with harming us. Right? A lot of these women, this woman here, I bet if she gave birth to a boy child, she'd probably get him cut, get him circumcised. Women have a fetish over circumcision. They like to gut their babies.
For young men, around 50% of them say they have never approached a woman, not once, not ever. Now, when asked why they can't find this drive to do so, most of them are expressing that they don't want to be seen as a creep or...
There you go, right? Women are telling them, they're giving off the signals that they don't like them. So why would you approach someone that clearly is going to reject you and reject you harshly? Why would you do that? Or here's another question. Lady, how come you're saying all this with a big smile on your face? Because even though you talk like this is a problem, you really like this. This really turns you on.
Be accused of sexual harassment in the wake of this whole Me Too movement thing that's happened.
That being said, I've heard and seen a lot of stories about how young men behave out there. And
this isn't a movement either. See, more weasel words. Women's criminality is always shone in a good light, or at very least neutral. It's not a movement, it's criminality. They don't call loan sharks breaking your legs a movement.
Really not helping themselves.
I have only gone from like the boy meets girl to like hell level destruction. This guy at the gas station comes up to me. He is smoking a cigarette, blows the smoke in my face and says, "I really want to hang out with you tonight." I said, "Oh."
So like most things, there's two sides to this. Reduced only to dating apps, men tried their luck for companionship there. Unfortunately, it's been a...
So this guy, he took his chances, he put himself out there, and this woman was bringing it on YouTube, saying how he was turning her off, and she enjoyed, she had a great big smile on her face. I get to deselect this man. Now, if you have any self-respect as a human being, what man wants to go through that?
Rough game. Each woman would receive thousands of matches, while it's not unusual for a man to be swiping for days and not receive anything. As for the last layer, in a sense...
Oh, there you go. You're just proving what I said earlier, right, dude? Women don't like men. If they did, they'd be going for men.
Sandwich of bad misfortune. There's also a forming political polarization between the genders. Gen Z men are swinging conservative, while Gen Z women are more liberal.
Women aren't liberal. They're the actual conservatives. Men are going to conservative label, because they believe it might give them an ounce of respect. It might support them. But women are the conservatives. Why? Because if they were liberal, they would date men who don't have jobs or make less than them. They would break the stereotypes. They would break the gender roles. But they never do. They enforce them. So don't pay attention to this graph. Women are not liberal.
The end result is a silent gender conflict among young people, and more young men end up being single than ever before. The
reason why it's silent is because if guys come out and are actually able to articulate this, they're called misogynist or incels. That's why it's silent.
Men that are doing better, the ones that are out of the house, possibly married, and building families, there's still remarkably similar issues. As Richard Reeves puts it,
wow, similar issues, right? So getting the girl doesn't mean shit. Getting female validation doesn't mean shit to a man. Because there's no love or respect there.
Quote, the sense a lot of young men have is not being sure that they're needed or that they're going to be needed by their families, by their communities, by society. And
well, they got it wrong, see? It's not need, it's wanted. That they're not wanted by their families or their communities or by society. These young guys, they recognize it. They said they know that they're not wanted. So they say, well, at least we should be needed so that we're not discarded. But very few guys have the ability to voice it like this.
Quote, both groups are now struggling more than ever to find a driving force, to find meaning. They are losing a sense of purpose. Around 2016, the dialogue around young men and a loss of sense of purpose.
Now notice getting the girl is men's purpose. Once the guy is being deselected, he has no purpose, John. Getting the job was to get the girl. Getting the fame was to get the girl.
Started to gain traction. In the Western world, it was most famously expressed by the confusion in why figures like Jordan Peterson and Joe Rogan were suddenly popular among young men. A decade ago,
they're grifters, that's why. They're grifters selling men what they want to hear.
These online personalities filled a hole which was routinely overlooked as a target audience, male role models for young men. Like it or not, the online spheres they created provided direction to young men who found themselves aimless in a rapidly changing world. The conversation took on a more academic...
The father I never had was one of the comments, right? Right. Even the guys who have fathers don't have fathers. Because fathers want to boot men out of the boys out of the house as soon as possible. And they're all about, son, pull yourself up by your bootstrap. Take the abuse. Just keep working. Now leave me alone.
Flavor in 2022 when Richard Reeves published his findings in his book Of Boys and Men. It highlighted a disparity that he had to research to believe. At the same time, another author, Scott Galloway,
this guy's a real misandrist too. He's a lowlife.
Started touring the country with a similar message. His emphasis, though, was on later education, employment, and dating.
I already had a video concerning that guy. He's a complete grifter.
As an adult. When on a podcast by Chris Williamson, the open statistics he shared.
No, I'm definitely bypassing this guy. I've already done this. This guy is a grifter. Williamson is definitely a grifter. No, I'm bypassing that altogether. These guys I've already covered. I'm not going to get any further on that. This video is getting overly long as it is. Come on, get past these scumbags.
In search of answers, it opens the door to troubling influences by online gurus. It wasn't unusual.
There you go, online gurus. That's what Williamson is and Galloway is. Or are.
Usual to see younger males, married or not, being told to reclaim masculinity through affairs, mistreatment of partners and spouses.
Lies. Who told you that? Nobody. This is a lie. No one's saying that. Again, Fusion, that's why you've got 5 million subs. Because you spread these hateful, misinterested lies.
And even walking away from traditional responsibilities.
Other people.
No, men aren't walking away from responsibilities. You just got through admitting at the very beginning that men are falling behind. That is, they're being kept out of employment and education. They're not avoiding responsibilities. They're not wanted. I guess I'm not going to play these disgusting people. Bash them.
More it becomes a lose-lose game for everyone. On the extreme...
No, just for guys, not for everyone. Don't try and include women in with us. They're our oppressors. They're doing fine.
End of the spectrum, there's a belief that men will become obsolete, but most sane people understand that men and women need each other.
No. It's not about obsolescence. It's about being unwanted. A flower in the vase doesn't provide anything. People just love the flower for what it is. You can't eat it. It doesn't uphold the roof of the house. It's just there because you want it there. And that's what men really want to be. Because that's what women are.
We understand the traits that both possess, and both are more than necessary for a functional society. The truth is that the system is failing. And it's
actually, that's untrue too. Men are needed for a functioning society. Women have never contributed to it. They've always just leached off it.
It's been failing for an incredibly long time, and nowhere is this more noticeable than the modern education system.
Why is she calling it modern? Because it's a feminist education system. It's a man-hating education system. So this guy isn't telling the truth. Right.
Over the past 15 years, the crisis among young men in the classroom has been discussed in small circles, but the conversation is growing rapidly. Male performance in school has been a real issue.
And again, this is not a crisis. When the civil rights movement was going on, they didn't say black men had a crisis. They were saying black men are being attacked. They had the rights stripped away. They want equal rights. This is what has to be discussed.
Thing is, this change might be a lot older than you realize. It didn't start with Instagram or TikTok. The split between young men and women in academia started in the 1970s in the US.
Hey, thanks to you for admitting this, because the split is all about at the very beginning of humanity. Human nature is male hostile. So it actually goes way before 1970.
It was after a landmark piece of legislation called Title IX. It prohibits gender discrimination in educational programs and activities receiving federal funding.
Yes, you see, Title IX is to attack men. It's to boot guys out and replace them with women. Because any particular class that is woman-dominated, in other words, majority, they don't try and get 50-50 there. They don't try and put men in there, do they?
Similar laws were also passed in the UK and Canada during the 1970s. And of course, this was definitely a step in the right direction for educational equality, but...
Well, it wasn't, dude. Booting men out to put women in there is not a step in equality. It's a very reverse. Again, you are lying.
It had an unintended consequence. The paradigm shifted into a belief that young men had a...
No. What didn't have an unintended consequence? These consequences were intended.
Already made it. From here on out, the majority of resources should be diverted towards improving schooling for the opposite gender. Richard Reeves, who had been studying the gaps in development for years, says that this isn't really a battle of the sexes, at least not entirely.
No, that's a bold-faced lie. It is 100% a class struggle between women and men. Or to be even more to the point, an oppression of women to men.
It's a complex crisis of neglect, where, for a long time, young boys were seen as doing just fine. The focus...
No, it's not neglect. Female teachers purposely marking down boys is not neglecting them, it's attacking them.
Was on uplifting young females in education. And that's fine. That's great even.
No, it isn't. Because you're not uplifting them, they're keeping boys down. Okay, this video's going on quite a bit. Hey, dude, Turian, when will this guy come up with solutions? Right? Notice those solutions don't come to the very end because they're going to be glib horseshit.
But while that goal was being worked towards, young men silently started to slip. According to the UNESCO Institute for Statistics, enrollment rates signal a sign of success. On the plus side, the gaps between young men and women are starting to narrow. But conversely, and what they fail to mention, is that male enrollment is visibly starting to stagnate or even become worse.
Of course, because how could men get into university when 2.1? One, they can't rely on a woman to look after them. So if their enrollment doesn't get them employment, there's no point in going for it. Two, since women are given so much more money to get into university, they don't have the same debt. Men are bogged down with much more debt than women when they enter university. So it's a no-go. If they said, you know, if I got to pay 50 grand a year, I can't afford it. And if it's half that for women, they can.
Especially for primary education. The gap for university enrollment is almost at 10% for half of European countries. It doesn't matter if it's Bosnia and Herzegovina, Sweden, or elsewhere.
Thank you for mentioning that. Again, it's worldwide. Why is it worldwide? Because this is human nature.
Virtually everywhere in the West sees more females enrolled in university than men. I personally think it's great that more women are being educated.
Then you're part of the problem, you misinterest.
Most reasonable people...
We don't need women in education like we do men. These women do not uphold the infrastructure. They are not the ones that keep society going. They simply leech off it.
Will agree that opening the gates of success for everyone is a good thing. But the focus here in
But you're not. You're closing the doors for guys. You can't even get the framing right.
This episode is that the trajectory of males isn't looking good. There's a concerning and significant gap in performance as far back as elementary school, and women consistently outpace men in college attendance. A New York Times survey found both male...
Why is this video so long? You're just saying the same thing you said 10 minutes ago. Guys, I'm going to skip ahead. I'll be right there. No, I better continue. Let's go.
Found both male and female teenagers, when talking about those closest to them, say this. 2/3 of both genders agree that the young men that they study with are more disruptive, lack leadership skills, and have difficulty relating to teachers in the classroom. Unfortunately, even when young boys are growing up at home before school, they're not being educated to the same extent either, especially when it comes to literacy. It's not a hard and fast rule.
So just bashing guys. They're more disruptive. What's that got to do with anything? What's that got to do with downmarking them?
But a recent study from HarperCollins found that, quote, only 29% of boys aged 0 to 2 are read to daily or nearly daily, compared to 44% of girls of the same age.
There you go. So that's, again, their very parents holding them down. This is their parents. So this is innate.
Other studies show that fathers are less likely to read to their sons than their daughters, and that both parents are less likely to encourage boys to read at all. As a result,
Yeah, because they don't really care about their boys. What can I say?
boys tend to read less, choose simpler books, and struggle to finish them, all of which affects their reading comprehension and their...
But by the way, reading to the girls is a form of intimacy. Yeah. So what they're saying is they don't want to be intimate with their sons.
academic readiness, but surprisingly, also their empathy and pro-social behavior. And this is something that a lot of parents don't even realize they're facilitating. The academic readiness gap is something that we discovered
Boys have all kinds of empathy.
first because it's measurable. We can see it in test scores, graduation rates, and class participation. However, the social component is often overlooked. The boys can just play with their toys all day, and that's fine. Less value being placed on young male development is already showing unfavourable results for millennials. And now that the oldest members of Gen Z are approaching 30 years of age, we're already beginning to witness an emergence of a male class that is uniquely isolated and unable to properly interact with the outside world.
Dude, what you're talking about has always been. You know, boys just going on and doing their own thing and playing with their toys, that's always been. So you can't blame that for this generation not being able to socialize.
So what can we say about
This is more victim blaming, guys. Guys don't know how to socialize. It's not just that we don't like them and we don't want anything to do with them. It's their fault.
future generations in the next 10 to 20 years? If we're not careful, we could see more generations of full-grown men, aimless, living alone, or debating with themselves about the future, like the Morneau brothers at the start of this episode. So the question is, how do we fix this? Well, here's a quick-fire round of solutions to get us out of this mess. Number 1, early intervention. A study by the National Bureau...
Okay, here's the bullshit. Let's see what he claims, what he's his what do you call it? I want to say conclusions are, you know.
of Economic Research states to prioritize reading in years 1 to 4, where boys fall behind first.
Are you going to force parents to like their sons as much as their girls? How are you going to do that?
2. Consistent routines, family outreach, and in-school tutoring helped attendance according to the Education Policy Institute.
What good is tutoring going to do if the female teachers still downmark the boys?
Number 3. Mentoring and social emotional coaching for teenage boys is another angle. For example,
mentoring. So guys like Jordan Peterson or Williamson, those guys that tell you just man up and take the abuse. That's the mentoring.
Chicago's Becoming a Man program cut violent crime arrests by 45 to 50% and lifted on-time graduation by 12 to 19%. Number 4. A stronger path from school to apprenticeships. High-quality apprenticeships raise...
Apprenticeship? I thought you wanted more women in these jobs, dude. Or how come you're not trying to get these guys in these female-dominated areas? You know, the ones where they show the women in the comfy outfits. How about that? So find some dirty jobs that women don't want to do.
Employment and earnings. And now, especially with the state of universities and AI threats, this could be a bright spot. Programs like Year Up and Per Scholars produce large, sustained earning gains for young adults, exactly where many young men stall. Number 5.
How about telling women not to marry men who are jobless or part-timers? How about shaming them and saying, hey, men did this forever, it's your turn. How about that? How about changing your disgusting male selection? Right?
5. Male-friendly mental health. In Australia, men's share...
Really? You mean in the health industry, which is feminist-dominated, filled with women who don't like men and don't want to deal with men, or they bash men?
Reduce isolation and support well-being. Headspace.
Really? reduce isolation, you're going to force women to allow strange, men into their social circles, or you're going to force men to be like each other.
For 12 to 25-year-olds is another option.
These aren't solutions whatsoever, because he leaves out how you could do that.
And finally, number 6, paternity leave and engaged fatherhood.
Well, finally, that's the only good thing he said.
According to Childcare Canada, when leave is also reserved for dads, a father's involvement in child rearing rises meaningfully.
Pass that because that's just bullshit. I'm not going to look at this guy anymore. Let's see. Yeah.
Showing that single-gender schools produce better adjusted young men and women.
It seems clear to me that it is the system which is disabling, rather than the boys who are disabled.
There you go. Wow, you finally said the truth, right? Okay. The only thing he doesn't go all the way to the core. Why is the system the way it is in the first place?
There's a lot we can do to make the education system work better for boys. Let's start with those two big problems of later brain development and lack of male teachers. So first, we should...
Bullshit. Later male development. Again, this is a generational problem, right? Were boys' brains developing faster in the earlier generations? Okay, so this guy isn't for solutions. This guy's a grifter, just like this channel is a grifting channel. Cold Fusion, you're a grifting channel.
But it's not too late to change things for the next generation.
You're right, there isn't. But in order to change it, men have to be honest with themselves about how society is misogynist by nature, because people are. And we have to be willing to fight back when we become aware of that. Those are solutions. Men have to, Taurian, men have to stand up for themselves. We have to admit that women are our class enemy, and we have to fight against them. That's the one solution right there. I've given you the solution, not these guys, not these grifters. Anyway, we'll end it here.